Welcome to Addiction Uncovered. I'm Jill, and I'm joined with Erin, who is our first ever guest today on the podcast. So thank you, Erin, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Erin is a 45-year-old wife and mom of 2 teens and 3 fur kids, so 2 cats and 1 dog. She spent most of her career in technical program management and also teaches yoga on the side. And other than yoga, her hobbies include cars, Legos, reading, spending time with her family, and traveling. She's been sober from alcohol since February 21st of 2020, and her path to finding and maintaining her sobriety is somewhat unconventional, but it's nothing short of incredible in so many aspects. So, Erin, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about how your struggle with alcohol began?
Sure. So, growing up, my childhood was pretty normal, probably until about 6th grade. I was bullied relentlessly in school. That had a big impact on my mental health at that point. And I had a hard time, with friends. And then in 7th grade, when I was 12 years old, my dad died of a heart attack. He was 44. It was in the middle of the night. I was home with my brother, and my mom was traveling for work. And I don't know any kid I've ever met that had anything was normal after that. It had such a big impact on me. And I remember the first time I ever got drunk was in 7th grade. My mom was traveling for work. It was after my dad had died. My brother was going to have a party, and he encouraged me to drink Mad Dog 2020, which is like vile. Yes. But at that point, I think it may have flipped something in my brain of like, oh, this is an escape from my feelings, and not consciously aware of that. But from then on, alcohol was a part of my life in some way, shape, or form. I wouldn't say I was drinking regularly at that age, but that was the first time I ever got drunk. And it was so normal, like everyone else was drinking. And then eventually, as I got to be an adult, it was a most everyday thing. I never had a DUI. I never lost a job. I never had these like monumental impacts in my life because of my drinking. It took other things happening in my life for me to realize that it was. And so it just kind of crept up on me. And it's so normal. Doesn't everyone drink a bottle of wine a night? Doesn't everyone go through a handle of rum in like, a week or less? Like, of course, sure they do. It didn't occur to me that was an issue for a long time.
Well, it's so normalized.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's so many different reasons that people start to drink or use other drugs. It is so normalized in our society. I think about it too, as we know each other because our daughters are friends. So we are raising teenage daughters together in this crazy world.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes. And so we think about how much anxiety and emotion and bullying, as you were talking about, and things that are going on with our kids. And there's so much drinking and drug use in teenage life.
Oh, yeah.
It is hard to keep them on that path of just because people are doing this doesn't mean that it's normal or it's the right thing to do. So we know when people start using, the earlier they start using, the harder it is and the worse it becomes.
Yes, 100%. It's, and with drinking, there's status around it, right? This is a $200 bottle of wine. Like, then this is something we should be doing, right? It's, it just felt like every day, no big deal. And I didn't realize how it was, there's a term in recovery, you've probably heard it before, learning to live life on life's terms. When you're escaping every single day, you never learn how. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't something that was modeled for me. So it's something I talk about and try to model for my own kids.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So tell me about your journey to recovery. So how did you get sober?
Oh, wow. Well, no surprise. I struggled with depression and anxiety. Started from a pretty young age, but it didn't realize that it was impacting my life until my early 20s. I was just starting out in my professional career, and I knew that I needed help. So I started with antidepressants, and I had a lot of, my dad dying young wasn't the only trauma in my life. I'd had, unfortunately, sexual assault in my past too. So there was a lot of things I was running from. Around 2016, I started in a new job. I loved the job, but it started to unravel and quickly evolve into a really rough situation with my boss. Like, I was under a lot of stress. I identify as a recovering perfectionist too, so that perfectionism of wanting it just right was certainly a factor there, and it created this toxic work environment that I wanted to be able to fix. Right, I can control all of this. Sure, that was the lie that I told myself, and it got to the point where one day in September of 2017, I had a complete mental just break. I'd had a really rough conversation at work, and I collapsed on the floor of my home office. I didn't want to live anymore. I had just gotten my 90-day prescription filled for Xanax, which I was having to take to control my anxiety, and I wanted to not live anymore. But something inside of me just reminded myself what it's like to grow up without a parent, and I knew I couldn't do that. So I thought and on top of this, like, wanting to die, I felt like I was dying. If you ever had a massive panic attack, it feels like a heart attack. My dad died of a heart attack. Maybe I'm having one. All of this together. And so but I didn't want to leave my children. And so I called my husband, and the only thing I could tell him was, come home. And from then on, I realized that the mental health care in Nebraska was not going to be sufficient for what I needed. And so I went to treatment in Arizona, went to this amazing place that I committed to going there for 30 days because I'd gotten to the point where I'm like, I can't live like this. Right. I don't know how to live like this. I don't want to live like this. Someone else show me, what am I supposed to do? And it absolutely changed everything about the way I think, what was possible, what I wanted. But I was there for my mental health. I was not there. I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't have a problem with any kind of substances. I just was depressed and anxious and had some issues. And it pushed me hard. I don't know if anyone's ever done a psychodrama before, but I had mapped out my whole life, and my therapist there picked out a few things that were very traumatic and made me relive them. And it broke me in a good way, and made me very curious about what are the layers of myself that I need to work through to get to this place of healing. But I knew that it was possible, and I was all for it. So that kicked off this, snowballing of learning to be in my skin and learn to live life on life's terms. So that was in 2017. During that year, I'd watched this documentary called The Last Shaman. And it was about this guy in his mid-20s who was struggling with depression. He tried everything and nothing was working, and he'd heard about ayahuasca. And so he went off to Peru to find a shaman that he could work with and work through his depression. And it greatly intrigued me, but I wasn't looking for that. I was just like, wow, I'd never heard of this. This is really interesting. Right. It turned out he'd finally had some success in overcoming his depression. And so it was coming up on a year since I'd gone to treatment. And I was like, I have never learned to love myself. All of the reading and research and uncovering everything was like, at the core of recovery is learning self-love. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know how to be around that. And I was originally thinking I would go for like a yoga retreat, take this international trip by myself. I'm going to find a yoga retreat. I'm going to do this. And I found one in Ecuador that was plant medicine and yoga. And I thought, well, maybe this is what I'm ready for. I worked with my mental health nurse practitioner, my therapist. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to do it safely because I had to get off of antidepressants to do it. Oh, I see. Which was a nightmare. It was very hard. But I went to Ecuador alone. My husband was super supportive. And I did one ceremony of ayahuasca while I was there, and it was unbelievable. I had this intention, and I was very, very focused on that intention going into the ceremony. Ayahuasca is not just a psychedelic you're out having fun with. It's hard. It will drag you through the depths of hell and all over the place. It's very hard to describe because everyone else's experience with it is really unique. But I had this epiphany, if you will, during that ceremony that the love I was seeking for myself was inside of me and had always been there. It was this phrase, it's inside, it's always been inside. And that I had these black bricks of my trauma and my shame that were getting in the way of this golden light that was inside of me that had always existed. I just needed to continue to do the work to move that out of the way and let it come out. And that visualization was so impactful for me. And to know that I was carrying the thing that I'd traveled, a couple thousand miles to find, isn't that how it always goes?
Yeah, it was right there inside. Right?
Yeah. And so I have been off of antidepressants since October of 2018. I don't feel like I had this chemical imbalance in my brain that something was broken in me. It was more learning to manage the things that had happened to me and change the narrative. If there's one thing I've learned in my own recovery, it is that the narrative has to shift. I have to change the story I've made up about it to change my perspective. But again, I'm not sober yet. We're just like learning to deal with the mental health stuff. And in 2020, I was turning 40. It was right before the pandemic. It was January. I'm like, I want to go back. And I want to do this again. I brought my husband and a friend with me, went to the same place, did 2 ayahuasca ceremonies this time. The first one was very gentle and not very deep. The second one, I had an intention of wanting to find my inner warrior. And I don't know why I thought it would be like any other of my ceremonies I'd had before, but it scared me. It took me to a brink of my sanity, and I was scared that I wouldn't be able to walk myself back, but I did. And it was such a beautiful breaking moment for me, because I got, after that ceremony came home, and we were out with friends drinking, and I got home and I was trying to talk to my husband, and I had this, what I was trying to say in my mind, but I couldn't make it come out of my mouth the way I wanted to. And I was like, I don't have control over how I sound, and I'm really frustrated. I don't like this. I don't know why that was the light bulb moment for me of like, I want to get sober. I don't want to drink anymore. But that was what it was. I felt like I was very capable, again, finding that inner warrior, that spirit inside of me. Again, I know it always been there. I just needed to find it. And so that was the last drink I ever had. And then the world fell apart.
Right.
And I was no stranger to 12-step meetings. I'd been when I was in treatment. And but I started attending AA meetings online after the pandemic started, and which was really beautiful. I loved hearing people's stories. It was something that I needed to keep grounded in during all of that. But I know that I'm far more capable than I give myself credit for. And I believe that about the other people that are around me. And, I feel like sharing my story is one path to showing people what's possible. I mean, it is by far one of the things I'm most proud of is getting sober. And it was not what most people do. I don't think I would recommend it for everyone. I do feel like ayahuasca is one of those things that you feel called to, because it's hard. Hard feels like such a not a deep enough word for what it is. But it changed my life.
It's almost like the way you're describing it is almost just like this deep exploration.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes.
And it sounds like when you were at the treatment center in California, you started some of that journey.
Yeah.
I mean, psychodrama. So I'm a therapist by trade.
Yes.
And so psychodrama, you don't see it around here a whole lot. There are definitely providers that provide that service, but it's just not as common.
No.
Because it is very confrontational.
Yes.
I suppose. And it really opens your eyes to, oh, this is what that looks like.
There's no escaping. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And psychodrama, at least when we did it, was community. Like, there are other people in treatment who were playing the role of the other people in my life that I needed to work through that situation again. And what oftentimes people don't realize about ayahuasca too is it is also communal. So one of the interesting things, particularly about the second time when I went back to Ecuador, is everyone had a similar overall feeling about the ceremony. The first one was gentle, and most people were like, oh, that's it. Okay, this isn't so bad. And the second time, all of us were going through it. So ayahuasca feels like a lucid dream. You're aware that there's stuff happening around you because you can hear it, but you're kind of mentally on a different plane. You're working through things that feel very real, but you haven't lost complete awareness that there's other people around you and stuff happening around you. And so it was funny because we all got out of it and we're like, oh my gosh, that was, intense. Whoa, very, very, lots of crying. And it's kind of beautiful to feel that together. So, psychodrama was the same thing. We all were feeling like we were experiencing this with that other person. Even my psychodrama, other ones that we went through at the time, which was actually really cool and quite an honor to be allowed into someone's life at such pivotal, intimate, vulnerable moments. It's incredible.
Do you feel like if you would not have done the ayahuasca in addition to the treatment center, do you feel like your recovery would look the way that it does today?
I don't think so. I have always been the type to push myself. How far can I go with this? And I needed that. I needed to get out of my comfort zone completely and allow the structures I've built up to, quote unquote, protect me, come down so that I can build something up on a foundation that is so much more stable, solid. And I think it was critical to do it that way.
So what do you think at this point, as you've been sober for
5.5 years?
5.5 years. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about staying sober?
I think it is being confronted with the moments where you don't have control. It's still, so there's this term, samsara, which is, it's these ruts that we've built in our brain and our consciousness, how we live our life. And then to step out of them and build a new rut is hard. When I spent 40 years of my life escaping, when things get difficult and I feel like I don't have control over the situation, that feeling sometimes still comes to me. I want to escape this, or I want to try my hardest to control this thing I can't. And I have to tell myself the serenity prayer all the time. And again, I have to come back to, all right, how do I change this narrative? Because my knee-jerk reaction was this story. It's out of control. Oh my gosh, how do I fix it? To finding a way to let go and find my peace and not give my power away. I think that's the hardest part because escaping is still something I want to do.
Who supported you the most? You mentioned your husband was really supportive and allowing you the space to go on this journey to Ecuador, and then joining you the second time. That's very supportive.
Yeah.
And obviously your kids are a part of this as well.
They are.
Now, I think being sober moms, it's a very interesting perspective to show them that, like, we can, they don't think we're cool.
No, they don't.
We could still be successful and do really exciting things and have a lot of fun and have friends and do all the same things that anyone else can do. Go on trips without having to have alcohol, you know, all of these things. And to show them that just because your friends are doing all that, it doesn't mean it's normal. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it.
No.
You know, so I just wonder, it sounds like your family has been very supportive. Like, have there been other people that have been around that have supported you through this?
Oh, for sure. I have an amazing therapist. I started seeing her not long after I got back from treatment. I was seeing another therapist, and she went out of practice for a while. And so that's how I found the therapist I have now. She's amazing. Yes, my family, my husband is a huge support, and he understands, the story that I've, this narrative I've been through. My kids, inspire me all the time. And, for me, it was also making sure they understood that this is a risk for you. I'm not the first alcoholic in my family. So it's, it's something that they need to be aware of. And, finding friends, I think for the most part, I found all new friends. The friends that I had before, I don't want to be around alcohol all the time. But I don't knock them for that's what they want to do with themselves. And so trying to find new friends, I got my yoga teaching certification in 2020 as well. And I find that the community I've surrounded myself in my yoga practice, my students, the ones that I practice with, my mentors have been really pivotal in all of this as well. So I talk about my story quite a bit. I don't want to hide it. And oftentimes I'll find people in the midst of all that are have a similar story to me, which I love. Because we don't all walk around with a shirt on that says, I'm 5.5 years sober.
Right.
I was an alcoholic. And I still feel that need to, when I mention that I'm sober, to, I don't know why. I think people get this idea in their head of what that means. They automatically, oh, how bad was it?
Right. Or they justify their own drinking.
Yeah, of
I don't
course.
drink that often, or I'm not questioning your drinking or making any judgments to that.
No.
I'm just saying that alcohol doesn't have a place in my life anymore, and that's okay.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean anything other than that.
No, I was not my best self when I was drinking, period, end of story.
Yeah. I always say, people ask me, well, why did you quit drinking? And I say, I just was tired of feeling tired.
Yes.
I just was tired of feeling like, and escaping it. I wondered what those feelings really felt like.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yes.
But what I realized, too, going through those hard times sober, is that those feelings don't really stick around very long.
They don't.
But before, you just drink right away.
That's right.
You feel it coming on, and you're like, okay, we need to escape.
Yes.
But if you actually just feel it and wait, it's pretty temporary.
It is. It is.
Not easy.
No.
Just temporary.
That's right. Yeah. And we're capable,
Very.
I think we find our resiliency through those times when you're like, I'm going to sit with this. It hurts and it sucks, but I can get through it.
Yeah, we've survived very hard things.
Hell yes.
Yes. Exactly. So any advice that you would give to someone who is in the midst of struggling with drugs or alcohol, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, well, I would reinforce that same message of you're more capable than you give yourself credit for. But I would also say, so I'm a big fan of the show Ted Lasso.
We've talked about this. Yes.
Such a great show. And there was an episode in there where he uses this, I think it's a quote from Walt Whitman, I think he says, and it's be curious, not judgmental, which as people who have been alcoholics, addicts, shame rules our world. And I think about when we can shift that into a place of curiosity, willingness to work through the layers we need to unfold to find this piece of ourselves that needs love and compassion and patience, to lean into that. I remember also early sobriety, it was 2020, listening to a Brene Brown podcast. She had Glennon Doyle on. Both of those women are sober.
Really great. Yeah. And
Brene talked about, she said, sobriety is my superpower. And I love that. Getting sober, early sobriety feels like living through a thick, murky mud. It's difficult. It's slogging. It's like, I got to do another day of this. But it's hard. And I think if you can lean into that bit of, this is a superpower, even though it feels really bad right now, it does get better. We don't feel like this forever.
No. We still have hard days.
We do.
But we experience them and we grow from them as opposed to escaping them and not remembering them.
That's exactly right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I would encourage them to unleash this part of themselves that they haven't tapped into yet.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story with us on the first ever episode of Addiction Uncovered. This is very exciting.
Yes.
I'm so glad that you shared your story. As
Thank
unconventional as it might be, I think we all have to look at things outside of the box to make sure that we're exploring all options because it's different for everybody.
Yes.
So I appreciate that and thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.